Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to the Element Podcast. What's going on, everybody? We are currently driving, which that seems to be what we do most of the time. We have been traveling a lot lately, too, and not just together, but in separate directions. And you just heard him laugh. Our co-host, Casey Smith, is hanging out with me. Dare I say it again, he's not driving.
How about that?
What's going on, dude?
I've been a little under the weather, man, and I'm still not 100%. I felt good most of the day today, but, the last hour or so I've kind of been dragging a little bit. I think the allergies mixed in with the cold that I had or whatever is kind of getting to me. Throat's sore, and my voice is just a touch quiet, so yeah, it'll be all right, though. I'm doing fine.
As opposed to your usual, status of Mike Peaker.
Mike Peaker is in temporary. He's on the IR today.
That's right.
Mike Peaker's on the IR.
We're hoping to get him back into the lineup soon.
Yeah.
What is going on here? Work truck. So we've got a few little stories to bring to you, but first I want to make sure you guys know that we've got a pretty awesome interview coming up, and I feel like we could have talked a lot longer. I had kind of a limited time slot that we could do this interview with Mr. PJ Reilly of Lancaster Archery. But man, I'm just terrible when it comes to knowing gear for one, and for another, archery stuff especially. I just haven't really done a lot of modification. I don't have a lot of money, and there's a lot of money to be spent in archery. And so, there's reasons other than that as well. But man, he's got me ready to spend about $600-700. But yeah, it's a really good interview that we did. And KC, like you said, was under the weather, so we had to do a three-way conversation on the phone. And so KC's audio may sound a little rough, but man, it was a great interview. So we'll get to that in a second. First of all, before you were under the weather, you were down south. Tell us about what happened, man.
I went on my probably last bachelor party I'll ever go on, which is...
Is that sad?
No, not in the least little bit.
Yeah,
it would have been around the first bachelor party, but now that we've done 9 of them, I'm about tired of them. We had a great time, don't get me wrong, but I'm not into the staying out late thing anymore, man. It's just not my gig.
It's rough.
I do my best to have a good attitude about it, because I know that everybody kind of deserves their fun or whatever. And of course, we had our much wilder days when we were younger. Now it's kind of more go out and eat and go to one joint and listen to a band play and throw some beanbags, which is what we did pretty much,
Yeah.
and laugh at the other people who we may have used to been in our past lives, if you know what I mean. But anyways, this all took place down the Guadalupe River, which I haven't spent much time at, mostly because it's all private for the most part, and it kind of makes me mad. So I one time I went there with a college girlfriend, and we were like going to try to fish. We pull up to the bank and just start fishing. And some guy pulls up real grumpy. You can't fish here, So ever since then, I've been kind of mad at it. But we had a private condo there on the water, so had river access, and you can walk up and down the river anywhere you want to, and it's not like it's real deep, so you can go as far as you wanted to, really. And I had a pretty stellar day Saturday afternoon. I caught a bunch of big rainbows and a giant sucker. Like, I know it's a sucker, but I was pretty pumped, dude. Like, I mean, the thing was probably 5 pounds plus. And he had a big old head on him, and he fought hard. That's what I was looking for, right?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, but we had fun, man.
Yeah, those were some big rainbows.
Yeah, they were solid. They were solid fish, and they fought hard too, which was cool.
Yeah.
They jump like rainbows. Rainbows will jump 5 or 6 feet out of the water, and they were eating like they're supposed to. It wasn't like you're throwing eggs and corn and crap to them.
Right.
I was throwing a size 14 pheasant tail underneath the indicator and just drifting it through the slow runs and ripping them out, man.
That's cool. Did you see any of them before?
I saw a few rises.
Yeah.
I did, and I saw a dead one in the water, which I don't know if it's because temperatures or somebody caught him or what, but I saw that there was a rainbow in the water, so I knew there'd be some. And I mean, the river's known for being Texas's only holdover rainbow population, so I knew that there was a chance of them being around, but I really didn't go down there with the intention of catching rainbows. I thought I'd catch smallies and long-ear sunfish, which I caught both of those too, but the rainbows were definitely the highlight of the trip.
Yeah, and the reason I saw him was he posted those on the Instagram story. So yeah, if you're not on Instagram following us, then you're probably gonna miss out on some of what we talk about because we post a lot of stuff on our story.
Yeah.
So make sure and do that. Yeah.
It's where a lot of our day-to-day stuff is on Instagram.
Yeah, it's kind of like almost like a blog of our life.
You can see how much Mexican food we really do eat.
It's about a constant flow between the two of us.
Yep.
So I was very surprised. There were some really nice rainbows that you were catching.
It's fun. I'm ready to go back, and I didn't think I would say that before. I wasn't really looking forward to being on the quad, just because it gets that reputation for tubers and drunk people and stuff, in which there was that around, but everybody's all friendly and they all ask, what'd you catch and that kind of thing. So, and there's more fishermen around too. So it was cool.
You told them a sucker.
Told them a sucker. Yeah.
But you said you were on River Road, right? Mm-hmm. I've been there several times.
Yeah. Playing.
What's that?
Playing.
Yeah. And we floated a couple times.
Yeah.
You went by the ice house there?
River Road Ice House, yeah.
Played there several times. That was almost like our home away from home.
It's a pretty big venue, I guess. I mean, I remember hearing that on the radio a lot when I was in college.
Oh, yeah. There's some good bands that come through there for sure. It's a cool little place down there. So I guess I don't have a whole lot of news from this weekend. I tried to relax. I don't relax very well. But I mainly, instead of relaxing, went out and did some fishing, talked and shot some stills of some whitetails and stuff like that. And sorry, that cop threw me off. But today we did basically our first, what I would consider preseason whitetail.
Oh, we're such dummies.
I'm definitely dumb. I know that.
Oh no, it was a good day in the woods. It's it's really, really, really early, but you have a little reasoning for why we'd want to put a trail camera out.
Right. So my thoughts are this. If you've listened to this podcast and you know my story a little bit, you probably know that I've kind of semi-chased a buck named Teenager for the last several years. So we both kind of had a rain day today, which because of the early morning rain, it was raging humid.
Oh my gosh.
Today. I'm talking, hadn't sweat this much outside of a football practice, I don't know, ever probably. So anyway, Teenager, I told KC today, I was like, man, I don't want to make this deer an obsession, but we do know he lives in a pretty small block, but we need to figure out where, because he's all over this block, and the block's big enough. I mean, it's several hundred acres that we, we need to figure out how we can get him patterned and killed. And I don't know if we're going to or not, but felt good about that last trail camera we hung.
Yeah, I like that spot.
My thought, though, was that Teenager he's the only really, like, decent buck on this property that we've seen in the last couple of years that we would consider like a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's one point there to be made. He also has some coloration features that I have found to be to help me identify him. And so I think that even though they don't have their horns right now, that he's got some probably solid bases that are starting to come out right now, because I know pretty much all the bucks around here have got a couple inches popping out. And if we get pictures of a deer, that's got good bases, and by the time we pick this camera up, he'll have grown some horn. It has the certain coloration
and the body,
and just
a big mature buck,
big bodied buck, and
yeah.
So anyway, I think that what my plan is, if I can find him, because until the rut, I don't feel like he's going to move a ton. Mm-hmm. Because last year during the summer, we didn't pick him up in the same spot we picked him up in the postseason several times.
We picked him up there this year in the rut too.
Yeah,
that spot that we didn't get him preseason.
Right.
And I think that from other preseason trail camera hangs from last year, we learned that those deer are pretty much going to stick. Like, if you find them preseason when they're out there munching on forbs and doing the summertime thing, like, they're going to be there until the weather changes.
Yeah.
And that's usually mid to late October for us here. Mm-hmm. So you have a really good chance. We have a lot of hunting to do this next season, and we would really like to be able to pattern a deer and get a buck killed in October.
Yes.
And that would be a great deer to do it on, because he has, a relatively small home range.
Mm-hmm. And just because we didn't find him in the summertime last year, it makes me, like you said, they're going to be in that area during the summer if you can find them wherever that is, munching on forbs and stuff. Well, they also don't, because of that, or I guess to go along with that, they don't seem to move much at all. Mm-hmm. Because it is blazing hot. And, even though we're not super close to the Gulf, we get Gulf humidity, mm-hmm. Quite a bit here. And it's just like, it's not fun to go outside in June, July, August around here, So you can only imagine what a deer with a big bunch of fur on him, mm-hmm. It's heavyweight buck is going to be probably not moving much, especially during the daytime. So what we're trying to do is get into his bedroom pretty much and find him. And so I think what I'm thinking is, if I start in May, then maybe that'll give me enough time to, whenever we go back out to set some more trail cameras for our other spots, check it and be able to observe the data and either move the camera one more or two more times to try to find him, or know that he's there or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I figured if we started now, I would have the time. I'd be able to recognize him, and I would have the time this summer to move it a couple times if I needed that, which I didn't have last year.
That, and we got to do some tree scouting.
Yes,
while we were out, which is
the second camera we hung.
Yeah,
that was a big part of why we hung it there.
Exactly. We found a large stand of shoemards amongst a bunch of post oaks, which we kind of knew they were there because of previous tree scouting expeditions, but went back, confirmed it, and hung that camera there in hopes that by last year the first shoemart I saw hit the ground was in September. It was late September. Mm-hmm. So it's that's the October tree for sure. Those post oaks don't start falling until early November, it seems like.
Yeah.
So
I remember we were talking, and we thought the first 2 weeks of October, if we weren't hunting shoemards, then we were idiots.
When we weren't hunting shoemards.
We weren't last year. Yeah.
So
we figured this out in mid-October.
Yeah.
So I knew there was a shoemart in there from when I was in there in March looking for his sheds. But I didn't know how many there were, and there was a lot. And that gives me a lot of hope that in October that'd be a great place to kill Teenager. Not to mention, we saw his track.
We did see his track.
I'm talking, it's
what we
a giant
think is his track. Yeah, I mean, we saw what we thought was his track during postseason, I guess.
And that was, and we thought that because we had trail camera pictures of him like during that time period.
Yeah. And he's the only buck in the area that's that big, so it's just more than likely it's him.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool because we set up a camera on the trail where his track was. So feeling pretty good about that, man.
For sure. Yeah. We I don't know. I feel pretty good about our camera hangs today overall. I think that we're getting a lot better and better just every time we hang one. Our system is a lot more in place. We know what it's going to take. We know by using junky cameras, like what we're going to have to, cheap cameras, we're going to have to do this to make sure that this doesn't set it off, and
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, as of right now, bang for your buck, those Stealth Cam P12s or P14s that we're using are pretty dang good. I mean,
we got them on a deal too.
Yeah, we don't have any connection with Stealth Cam or anything, but those cameras are working pretty good for us. As far as like that cheaper camera level, like trigger speed's good, pictures are pretty clear, like they are pretty good for public land hunting.
Yeah, they've been great, man, and you got the majority of them you got on a discount, right? Like they were running a special or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like $35 a camera or something.
I think Academy might even have them on sale right now. I'm not sure, but might be something to check out.
Go get you one if you're interested in some cheap cameras that work pretty decent.
Yeah.
Don't get the ones around us though, because we might be getting them. So there was one more spot we went and visited. It's a spot that we are calling the Pulpit, and it had a lot of buck movement from like late November on, which is kind of when our rut really seems to be the heaviest. I mean, there's definitely movement all November, rut movement. But anyway, we went back in there, and dude, there was, for this time of year, there's a lot of traffic in there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like it's just a rut spot.
I don't know what they're doing, but there was, a decent amount of tracks in there, and a decent amount of looks like buck tracks, I would think, bigger tracks and stuff. I don't know. But I'm excited about that place, man. I feel like it's a sensitive spot, if there's, it's a public spot. If there's anybody else that moves in the area, it's going to kind of mess it up just because it's so sensitive. But it's going to be pretty cool if we hunt it right. And do it right on the wind. And we saw some large deer move into that area, like you said, and pretty cool. You showed me a spot that you were really excited about hanging in a cedar tree.
Yeah,
which I've never
not
done.
Excited about it after we looked at it today.
Because it's thicker, or what?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely I don't know. It's just going to take a lot of work to get a stand in there, right, and make it fit and everything. I think where we originally hung the camera might be our best bet, just as far as getting shots in both directions, So, but I think that spot it's a killer spot. I mean, it's like heavy pressured area, but it's on the fringe of like where most of your hunters are hunting, and so it's like this little fringe spot where the deer have found, there's a lack of human pressure and they move through there apparently. So, or they did all into last year. So.
Yeah, I think you're onto something too with how we're getting our system down on trail cameras and stuff. We're hanging them all similar. We're learning these things about like the grass and shadows and where you can and can't hang one and get 100,000 daytime pictures of nothing, and like kind of the bang for your buck hangs too. I know last year we hung some cameras where we only got like 4 or 5 deer pictures on them, because it's like, well, let's see what's moving through here. Well, if there's not a lot of sign of something moving through, probably not a lot moving through, and when you start hanging on those places and orienting your hangs to where or believe there to be buck bedding or a food source or something like that, then you can really start actually getting value out of those camera hangs and not sweating your patootie off to go in there and pull a car that has 6 pictures on it.
That's right, man. That's what we did over there with Teenager last year in the summertime.
Yeah.
So
Mosquito City.
Oh, it's terrible. So, I guess after that we went and picked some blackberries or dewberries. Not sure. We'll have to probably brush up on what the difference is there. But we just call them blackberries, and they are looking good. I'm looking at a whole cup of them right here.
Ooh.
And I'm gonna make a deer backstrap steak tonight with blackberry glaze on it, like
Sous
we did. No.
No, it's not sous vide.
Mm-mm.
That's all the rage right now, man.
I know.
What are you doing?
I know. I'm gonna do a good old. I'm gonna sear it real good on the outside with a real hot grill or skillet, and we're gonna glaze it up, man. So I'm excited about it. It's the same recipe that KC did with the elk steak last year, and it is very good. And we actually have a video online that you can go watch that lays the whole recipe out and shows you how to do it, and it's money. So make sure and get out and get you some blackberries. Ditches are a public right of way, you know, so
right.
You get out there in the ditch and find you some blackberries, and you're doing nothing illegal to be picking them. So get out there and do it, man. And I guess it's a good time to go to the interview with PJ Reilly. What do you think? Anything else?
That sounds good to me.
All right, let's get with him. All right, so on the phone we have PJ Reilly. He's a freelance rider, and he also works with Lancaster Archery. What's happening, PJ?
How you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Awesome.
So what's been happening in your neck of the woods? I hear it's been raining a lot.
Raining a lot. It seems to come every weekend when we're trying to shoot 3Ds or shoot field archery. The turkey hunting, I have not been out, but turkey hunting seems to be really good this year. Everybody's killing turkeys.
Well, that's a good thing.
I unfortunately have not gotten out, but other people are.
Yeah. Well, we feel you. We actually live in a part of the U.S. where turkeys don't really exist. Is that right? As crazy as it sounds, we are in a part of Texas that does not have really any birds at all. So,
well, I feel your pain because that's where I am in Pennsylvania. There's like a couple here or there, but I can't hunt right around home. I'd have to go a couple hours away.
Yeah, yeah. So do you do any fishing? I would assume you deal with some bow fishermen.
Yep. Regular fishing, bow fishing. We do a lot of that. Trout, cool. Bass. Our bass fishing's just getting good. Trout season's been in for about a month. Been picking that up when I can. Of course, the streams have all been getting blown out by these real gully washer rainstorms.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah, we've got guys down here in Texas that they like to combine their bass fishing and their bow fishing. So it's
nice.
It's one of those things where they thought it was a carp, but it wasn't. It was a largemouth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that happens every now and then. Our bow fishing won't get good for about a month to 2 months. It'll start getting good. The carp start coming into the shallower water, and of course the water drops, the levels are better. So
yeah. Well, cool. So the whole reason we really wanted to do this podcast is we always look for a different angle than what's kind of out there and kind of hot in the media right now. And so one thing that we are very much interested is all the little things that have to do with archery or bow hunting. And what I mean by that is a lot of guys are infatuated with the newest bow that's coming out from Matthews or Hoyt or whoever. But, we want to know about the little things that go on those bows that may affect certain parts or certain aspects of accuracy or effectiveness or, different velocities and all these different things. So we figured you would be the guy to talk to. And, personally right now, is a time where I traditionally would start shooting in preparation for next hunting season. And slowly I would start to dial things in. In the last, decade or more, I typically kind of relied on just my early shooting years, and almost in the same fashion as once you learn to ride a bike, it's just like riding a bike. You always get back on it, So, and I know that's not probably the best way to do it, but being busy, most of us don't have a ton of time or even a great space to kind of stay consistent with it. And, I finally have a good spot at my home that I've just moved to shoot in the evenings. Nice. And so I think I'm going to dive into a new rest this year for my bow. How important is a rest in the spectrum of bow accessories, and what should we look for, or what should I look for when I'm looking to purchase one?
Sure. The dropaways are the way to go these days. That's what's most popular, and it's pretty much all of them are full containment. That's something the bow hunters in particular look for. So you can lean left, right. You're going through brush. You don't have to worry about your arrow popping out. And just for consistency, they just the rest gets out of the way, so it's not causing any adverse action. A popular one, and there's certainly nothing wrong with it, of course, is a whisker biscuit. It's simple. It's foolproof. You put it on there, you don't have to worry. But if you're looking for a little higher level of accuracy, we always say, if you look at the pros, they can shoot whatever they want. There's not a pro out there that's shooting a whisker biscuit.
Right.
Obviously, there's a reason for that. Now, for the bow hunter who wants to kill a deer 20 yards, whisker biscuit's perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. But, if you want to take your game a little bit higher, a little more precision, maybe extend your distance, probably going to want to go with a drop away. That just seems to be what's hot right now.
Yeah. KC, what are you thinking, man?
Well, I, like a lot of people, and kind of like you, Tyler, where I'm shooting a rest that I've had for quite a while, and I don't know if I'm really ready to move to something different, but I'm shooting something that is a drop away, but it's not a full containment. So is there any world or any realm where someone wouldn't want a full containment rest? Like say somebody has a rest that's 6 or 7 years old. Is there any reason for them not to go to one of those full containment rests?
No, it's just simpler. When I started hunting, the popular one was a rest called the TM Hunter. It was 2 prongs that were fixed. And for shooting accurately, it was great. Your arrow tended to fall off. That was just something you dealt with. You are moving around in the tree stand, you hit something, boom, that arrow would fall off. It didn't take much. Mm-hmm. Full containment, that just simplifies everything. And where I had to make sure my arrow was positioned correctly on the rest, with these full containment, you don't do anything. Gravity takes it to where it's supposed to go every time when you go to shoot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can definitely see the benefit of that, because there's been multiple occasions, I probably won't say how many times, but where I've drawn my bow and you see your arrow lying down on the riser, and it's not a good deal at all. It's a bad situation to be in whenever you have an animal at the other end of that. So I'm with you there. I think that moving to that full containment rest is going to be a good thing for me in the future. And then I, like you, have shot those 2-pronged, rests in the past, where you had to kind of tune your fletchings to go through the prongs and all that. And I know that there's a lot of guys who are still shooting, that kind of traditional kind of equipment, not really traditional in the sense of a trad bow, but some of the older stuff. And I have a trophy taker rest that's a fall away wet rest, and it's kind of common practice to put like moleskin or some sort of soft material on that rest to decrease the sound of the arrow being drawn, and cut out on some of the clanking or whatever if the arrow falls off like it tends to do. Sure. But is there any way, or can you see that kind of can affect accuracy with just some I guess, what's the right word? There's some deviation there to where, like, if it's wet or over time it starts to wear and it gets softer, or if it gets dirty or it gets some stuff in the way, would you shy away from putting something like that on your wrist?
No, it's because if you tune it, tune your bow, shoot it through paper, you're going to have to figure out, level knock travel is level knock travel. Whatever, wherever you have to move the rest or move your knocking point in order to, shoot through paper and get a bullet hole, that's what you'll do. And so with a drop away rest, whether you got moleskin there or not, you'll have to figure that out to tune it, and then once you do it, you're good. I mean, you're good to go. Cool.
So, being that guy that I spoke about earlier that doesn't have a whole lot of time sometimes to change things up, I mean, you know, guys like you that get to work in the field of archery sometimes, and this may or may not be you, but I'm saying that guys in your field sometimes can really get detailed with stuff, and it's hard for, I guess, the blue collar or common man to really relate, you know? So
yeah,
for me, and then talk about a controversial subject, broadheads. I shoot a mechanical NAP 100 grain, and it's got like the cut on contact kind of rage looking head.
Yep.
You know, and I've before that it was just the regular Spitfire. These are called Spitfire Max, I believe. And you know, they've been around forever. I've killed tons of deer with them. Never had any issues on some pretty big deer.
Right.
And I would like to shoot fixed blade, but I don't feel like I really have the time to fine tune them and shoot them accurately. Plus, you know, if your broadheads shoot differently than your field tips, then you want to be throughout the season, kind of testing those broadheads into a target to make sure you're still where you thought you were last time before you moved your bow around and took it, you know, several hours away to hunt, and then you got to sharpen those broadheads and all this and that. So, I mean, is my theory okay, or is there a better theory out there?
Well, here's the thing. As long as your heads are the same weight, like you're shooting a 100 grain field point, 100 grain broadhead, technically your broadhead should always fly like your field point.
Okay.
If it's not, that's a tuning issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a broadhead issue. Very seldom, the only way it would be the broadhead is if your arrow isn't cut straight, and so the broadhead's not sitting flush, or in the rare instance that the threading, the ferrule on the broadhead is bent. You know, sometimes that happens. But for the most part, if you tune your bow properly, you should be able to shoot any broadhead you want. And one of the things that we see is a lot of times go to mechanicals. Hey, mechanicals are awesome. You know, I mean, I've shot lots of things with them. You know, they kill just as good. You know, some of your bigger game, you may run into issues if you hit bone.
Mm-hmm.
If you hit the right spot with a rage or whatever, man, you got a heck of a hole.
Right.
But a lot of times people go for the expandables because they shoot the fixed blades, and it's a typical thing is it hits low right. And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to re-sight in. I'll shoot mechanicals. Oh, they hit right with my field point. Well, actually, there's a tuning problem there that's being hidden in some fashion. And it is tedious, but one of the things that if I could recommend anybody do if they have the time is to bear shaft tune. If you can get a bear shaft to hit exactly with your field points or with your fletched arrows, your bow is tuned to perfection and you can shoot anything you want. It's just amazing how your accuracy goes through the roof when you take the time to bear shaft tune, but it is tedious.
So, yeah, when you say bear shaft, are you talking about no fletchings or no broadhead? Or?
Yeah, no fletching.
Okay.
You'd shoot it with a field point, you know, just the same as your fletched arrow, but you take the fletchings off, and technically you should be, if you have the proper arrow for your bow, a lot of time it has to do with arrow length. Of course, arrow spine is critical. A lot of times what people do is they're usually under spine. They're right, you know, you're shooting a 29-inch arrow, 70 pounds. Yeah, should you be shooting 400 or should you be going 350 for the spine? And so, you know, maybe they're shooting 400s. They don't want to switch, but they really should be shooting a stiffer arrow. So if you can take the time to bear shaft tune and get that bear shaft to fly just like your fletched arrows, man, You can shoot anything you want. I shoot Magnus Buzz Cut Stinger. That's probably one of the least aerodynamic broadheads out there. I'll shoot that thing 80 yards. It'll hit right with my field point.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, but some things that I had to do that, are maybe everybody can't. I shoot a Matthews Halon 32. And so what happened was I went to bear shaft, or actually I shot my broadhead for the first time when I got the Halon 32. Shot my field point. Now, I shot a field point fletched arrow through paper and got a perfect bullet hole. Perfect. I'm good to go. I shot a bear shaft and it was way to the right. It was really ugly. So I thought, well, that's not good. And so what it was showing a weak spine, but I knew it wasn't the spine because I was shooting 300 arrows. It can't go any stiffer. So with the Matthews bow, they have what they call a top hat system. It's these little cam spacers in the axles, and they have 3 sets of them. So you can move that cam around. And what I had to do was move my cam to the left. Once I did that, changed the spacers in there, perfect bear shaft tune, flew perfect. And then, that was the only thing I did, put the broadhead back on, hit right with my field point.
Wow.
But, you have like a Hoyt with the yoke system. So you have to play with the yokes to kind of tilt the cam one way or the other. Primes have a roller guard. You change the angle of the roller guard to influence the cam. So it's a lot of that stuff where, like you said, not everybody has the time to do it or really knows what they're doing there with the bow. So, but back to the original point, the expandables, a lot of people go to that just because their bow is out of tune and they don't know what to do about it.
Right. Yeah, that's probably me.
Yeah, it's a lot of people, and your fletched arrows will fly perfectly. But if you can imagine that, the less you ask your fletchings to do, the way more forgiving they are.
Right. Starting with the fundamentals.
If they don't have to steer much, you can make little mistakes and then they'll hide it.
Right. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of moving on here. We had Chris B on the podcast recently, and so he's a competition guy, but he also hunts and stuff. Yeah. So being a competition guy, he obviously shoots a long stabilizer. But that carries over into his hunting setup too, I've noticed. And, I've heard most guys can't shoot the difference in, say like a 6-inch or so, and then something that's really long. But I like small wins because I feel like they end up in big victories. And so I like things that may just barely give me an edge, So what are your thoughts about stabilizers for hunting setups?
I think the stabilizer for bow hunter is probably the least utilized and least understood implement that people put on their bow.
All right.
And the perfect example was I had a customer come in. He had just bought, this was back when Hoyt had the carbon element. He had just bought a Hoyt carbon element, super light bow, because he wanted to go out and, he was going to do all kinds of hiking. He wanted a light setup. So he comes into the shop and he's shooting and he calls me over. He's like, PJ, I just can't get a tight group. And I'm watching him shoot. He has no stabilizer on. And I said, put a stabilizer on it. No, I don't want to do that. That's, that's going to add weight. That's terrible. I don't want to do that. And so he kept shooting and, we're playing with his form and his form was good and everything. And his name's Jacques. And I said, Jacques, I'm telling you, we're in here in the shop. It's not going to hurt anything. Put a stabilizer on it. All right, so I put his 12-inch stabilizer in there, and his next 3 shots were all touching. He turned to me and he said, I'll never forget, he turned to me and he said, Well, that doesn't mean you're right.
Yeah.
so it's what happens is, first off, you have the riser and the limb pocket. If you're stabilized, what we want people to do is understand what they're getting and what they're not getting. If your stabilizer doesn't reach past the limb pocket, it's not doing any stabilization. So basically, those little S-coil dampeners, all they're doing is killing vibration, not stabilizing the bow at all, which means torque is a very real issue for that person. So I hunt with a 15-inch front bar and a 10-inch side rod. And I have 6 ounces on the side rod and 3 ounces out front. I'll take it in the tree stand. I mean, my arrow is still longer than the stabilizer, so at some point my arrow would hit something before my stabilizer would. But just for that, if you're the typical whitetail shot is 20 yards and under. Do you need that for that? Not necessarily. But what if you want to shoot 30, 40, 50 yards with confidence? Like, not just, oh man, I sure hope this goes in.
Yeah.
You're taking the shot and you're saying, I know this is going to hit that thing right in the heart. You probably want to play with a stabilizer setup. Just because if you were to have 2 people to shoot that side by side 50 yards with a stabilizer setup like that versus without, I guarantee you the stabilizer's group is going to be tighter.
Yeah.
And so we see the resistance all the time to the long bars. I don't want that. That's too much. It's going to get in the way. It's too heavy. I get it, understand it, and I'm not saying everybody has to shoot 15 inches. That can certainly be overkill. But it's understanding what you're getting and what you're not getting. That's what's important.
And I'm probably a traditionalist when it comes to archery equipment. I'm kind of slow to change. And, of course, I've got a front stabilizer. I feel like that's kind of, since the probably 80s or 90s, has been kind of the way people do things. But the back bar, side rod, whatever you want to call it, the other stabilizer that comes out the back down to your left side if you're a right-handed shooter is kind of new for me. And I don't quite understand what the purpose of it is and what it can do for you as a shooter. So can you kind of explain what that is?
Sure. So one of the most common things it offsets anything on the other side of the bow. I don't shoot with a quiver on, so that's meaningless to me. Basically, the only thing I have on the other side of my bow is my sight. But if you put a side rod on, or if you have the front bar on, what you want is to have all your weight out at the very end. Well, that's going to cause, if you have a decent amount of weight, then your bow is going to want to fall forward constantly. With a side rod, you counter that and kind of bring that bow up a little bit. The end result is when you are holding on target, your pin is just a lot quieter and steadier. You put it where you want it. Everybody's pin floats a little bit. Question is, does it float a lot? Does it float fast? Is it slow? What you want is little movement and flow. That's just keys to accuracy, keeping that pin longer where you want it. So a side rod helps balance your bow, and it's different for everybody's hand, what feels right, but that's what it's doing. It's just balancing that bow when you're at full draw.
I got you. So it's I guess you can compare it to like when we're filming hunts. Sometimes when we're filming B-roll or whatever, we're using a thing called a gimbal. It's pretty much doing the same thing, right? You're putting weight down at the bottom so that the thing at the top is steadier. That makes good sense. So how do you determine if, as a hunter, that you need one, or would you say that everyone should kind of start moving that direction?
Well, here again, there are the pro archers. I mean, if anybody could shoot a bear bow accurately, it's going to be Levi Morgan. I mean, he's one of the best archers on the planet. Levi Morgan hunts with a 15-inch front bow and a 10-inch side rifle. Why does he do that? If of all people who wouldn't need it, it would be him. But he does it because he knows that that's just when he comes up and he puts his pin on it, man, whatever he's aiming at's in big trouble.
Yeah.
So I would say everyone probably could benefit from it. Now, that's purely from an archery accuracy standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
That's not factoring in if you have to go hiking all over the place. John Dudley is a perfect example. He also is a very accomplished archer. He doesn't always shoot a long stabilizer. When he's doing a lot of hiking, he keeps his bow more lightweight and compact. That's his choice. And he certainly has the skill to do that. But I would say more people would benefit from a good stabilizer setup than not. Just if for nothing else, for torque. The most common problem that we see, particularly with bow hunters, is guys who grip that bow grip. They grab it like a pistol. Mm-hmm. Looks like a pistol grip, they grab it like a pistol grip. Well, the main thing that causes is problems with torque. So they're going to be twisting that riser. It doesn't even take much, just a little twitch. And, especially at 40, 50 yards, your rider can miss by 3 feet. So a stabilizer, especially, a longer front rod, resists that torque. It fights it. So that would be my thought on stabilizer setup. I think everybody could benefit from one. So, But like I said, there's other things that they're considering as well.
Yeah, sure. And I guess that you're kind of saying that we almost need to look at stabilizers as a system, as more than, here's a front one and here's a back one, right? Like it's how it all plays together with your bow setup.
Yeah, you could. It's possible that you could have just a front bar and be fine with that. The reason I hunted with a 12-inch front rod for years. Actually, the reason I went to 15 is so I could cut down my weight. You don't need as much weight out on the end the farther you get away. And I had something like, I don't remember, like 10 ounces out front, which then I have to counter that on the back, so I had even more on the back. Usually I have a 3-to-1 ratio, 3 on the back to 1 out front. And so I went to a longer one so I could cut down on my weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So speaking of that, how do you feel about those, what do they call them, quivilizers or something like that? It's where they take the quiver and it's mounted to the stabilizer horizontal to the ground. Have you ever used one of those? Is it, I kind of can applaud the ingenuity, but I don't know if it's functional. You know what I mean?
I have not. I have not used one. And I can't remember. I can't remember if I've seen one up close, but I would wonder. My arrows are 29 inches. Now that is, my target stabilizer is 30 inches. I know I don't want to carry that in the woods. So I'd be curious to see where is the weight in that, and how many arrows are you carrying? I think I have 5 in my quiver. I have a removable quiver. I never shoot with it on. So,
It kind of seems to be a Western kind of thing. Like a lot of the guys out there are using it more, some of that open country stuff where it's more spot and stalk. But I can just see where, you go through the season, you shot a couple deer and, your quiver's down to 3 arrows as to where it was 5. You're shooting a different system at that point in time.
Yeah, I guess if you're shooting and missing by your 5th shot, your weight ratio may be completely different.
It just gets worse every shot, right?
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, I know we don't sell many of those, if we even carried. I don't know if I've even seen it in our shop. Yeah, there's lots of gadgets out there. It would put your arrows in a handy place, no doubt about that. Right there in front of you. So, not for me though.
Speaking of the gadgets, are there any other accessories that are maybe not? Maybe you wouldn't reference them as gadgets as much as them being a very important but overlooked piece of, your bow that relate to accurate shooting.
Yeah, so I don't know that people put necessarily as much thought into their sights as they probably should. What I see is a lot of people don't even know that there are different size pins, that the fibers are different sizes. Going down as small as the typical hunting sizes are 10,000, 19,000, 29,000, and with the 10,000 being the smallest. And just the smaller that your pin is, the more precise you can be with it. However, the less light it's going to transmit. Mm-hmm. So being hunters, where we're in low light situations a lot, the ultimate goal seems to be to fine tune that and get something that's finite enough that you can really take precise aim, but yet will transmit enough light that you can see it, when it's the very last few minutes of daylight. Mm-hmm. Also fiber. These sights now, you see sights that have the fiber wrapping all the way around the scope housing. All of that fiber is gathering light, which is transmitted to the very end, which you look at. Mm-hmm. There are sights that are less expensive that only have, like 2 or 3 inches of fiber. And, so guys are like, oh, well, I just get that one. And without thinking, at 5:30 at night on November 15th or whatever, and you're just about at daylight, you're probably not going to be able to see that pin. Mm-hmm. And they don't realize that until it's too late.
PJ, I have a Spot Hog 7-pin. It's the Pro Hunter. I think you probably familiar with that stock.
That's awesome sight.
Yeah, I love it. I've shot. I've shot it for 4 or 5 years, I think, and it's great. But I did go with the 10/1000 fiber optic. Oh yeah, and it's great, especially when you start getting down to that bottom couple pins. You really need that precision. But I've always wondered, because I can tell on that site, particularly, as you're starting to really kind of push those daylight hours, they're getting a little dim. And there's times, it might just be a minute or two that I kind of miss. It's kind of like the camera light thing, where I just kind of barely missed those couple minutes. But, I mean, those are big buck minutes, And I wondered if maybe through y'all or through Spot Hog or through any other site manufacturers, if they actually include, say for like your 20, 30, 40, the distances that you would be comfortable shooting and you don't need the smaller optics for, could you put, a 19/1000 in those and then a 10/1000 in, your longer range sight?
Yep. So I shoot a sight called the True Ball AccuTouch. And it's a 5-pin sight. It's a 5-pin sight that's also a slider. I'll explain that. But anyway, my first 3 pins are 19,000 and my bottom 2 are 10,000.
Exactly.
And so it's got 5 fixed pins, but then it also, I can move the whole scope housing up and down. So my pins, 5 pins, I have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So then I have these notches where I can also get 70, 80, 90, 100. I can keep going down. I would always use my bottom pin beyond 60. But that's a site where they offer you can get different size pins just for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm very glad to know that actually exists. That's great. Probably be looking at that in the future.
And even just so this year, Trueball upgraded its fiber. I mean, who knew there was different types of fiber?
Not me.
Well, I had no idea, but what I know is I got the new fibers into my pins, and my 60-yard pin, it was orange. I had trouble seeing it when I got the sight. I mean, it just, even in regular light, it just didn't pick up light. Trueball has this new fiber they put in. Man, that thing glows like it's incredible now. So apparently there's even different grades of fiber optic that can be used, which really helped me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
If my wife only knew how much money you're making me spend right now.
Yeah. Well, and while we're on the topic of sights too, a lot of guys don't consider what's called leveling your second and third axis to make sure that your sight truly is level in all conditions, especially tree stand. That's going to be your third axis.
Mm-hmm.
If your sight if you haven't taken the time to level all those things, side hills, up and down shots, you can miss. I mean, your sights can be dead on flat ground, and as soon as you go to shoot at a downward angle, you can miss wide left easily.
Mm-hmm.
And guys don't always think about that, or pick a sight where you can level the second and third axis and then actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is all part of that. All part of the process to hyper accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
You have guys now shooting 100 yards with no problem. I mean, they'll take that shot in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know their equipment can do it and they've practiced it, and it's definitely possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about the bow grip? Because I kind of have a fat one that's made out of wood, and I like it a lot. I like the fact that it's made out of wood, for one, because the metal gets really cold during the season. But I know that the more contact you have with the bow, the more margin for moving the bow as you shoot. So what kind of grip do you prefer?
Yeah, if you favor the fat grip, then you're really not going to like the kind of grip you should be shooting. Because it takes some getting used to, but narrow and flat is what is going to give you the most consistent. It's basically consistency. That fat grip, the more contact you have, the more things that can be different from shot to shot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the pros, quite honestly, take the grip off and just shoot with their hand on the riser because it's really thin and it's nice and flat. On some bows, not on all of them, but some of them. Or some of them will take the grip off and just put like tennis racket tape around there to give them a little cushion. A good grip is kind of key because that's your hand you can do all kind of bad things with your hand in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
I figure if you look at me shoot, you can understand all these things that I'm telling you. that these are the reasons.
We like to. So I've seen videos where some people are saying, it doesn't matter how you grip the bow, whatever feels comfortable, open hand, or gripping it around, whatever works for you. And I just thought, man, if you watch the pros shoot, basically every one of them has the same hand position, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Little slight variances, but almost, I won't even say almost, they all have the same hand position. And they do that for a reason, because it's consistent, repeatable, and consistent. That's what they're looking for.
So this past season, kind of trying to strive for some of that consistency, I've always shot with one of those wrist straps, like, say if you were to shoot with an open hand, you put the wrist strap on there, the bow falls and it's dangling, right? And I pulled it off because all it ever did for me was pretty much just cause a moment of anxiety when a deer was coming in, of me trying to finagle my gloved hand through that little wrist strap to get a hold of my bow. And then Tyler called me a poser and said I was just trying to do it because I didn't want to look dumb with my wrist strap. So I thought it was because of real reasons. Now, what is your opinion on those wrist straps like that?
The first thing is, and that's one of the other things we see, is those wrist straps, you should never have difficulty getting in because it should be loose enough that you can just slide your hand right in without thinking about it. We always see people who have it tight against their hand, which is not a good thing because then that's putting torque into the system. Because you want your hand to be nice and relaxed. Anything's pulling on it one way or the other, that's not a good thing. So that wrist strap, I use one, should actually be open enough that you don't even think about it because it's such a big opening to slide your hand into.
Yeah. So what's the benefit of having it? Why do you use it?
Tree stands. You know, shooting at a downward angle.
Yeah.
On flat ground, I have never dropped my bow, and I say out of a tree stand I never have, but I can see where if something happened and the shot really surprised me, I might not grab onto my bow, and shooting at a downward angle, gravity's working against me anyway. So it's just kind of a safety measure to make sure you don't drop it. But it's not, it's something that I don't even really think about. It's just second nature. Just slide my hand right into the grip. I don't even know it's there. If you get those ones that are made out of paracord, they really sit up nice so that you don't, it's not flopping around. It sits where you need it to be, and boom, you just slide your hand right in.
All right, cool. So let's talk about some of the small stuff, okay? For forever, when I was shooting, I would knock my release onto the string, pull back and shoot. And then all of a sudden I show up to a bow shop and I'm 17 and they say that I have to have a D-loop. And I didn't know anything about them at that point in time, and then now that's common practice, right? So are D-loops here to stay? Is that going to be something that sticks around forever? I know it kind of changed my draw length a little bit, and it does for everyone, right? Like by about a half an inch. So is that, I don't see it being a fad, but is that going to be something that sticks around, or is there a better answer to that still?
I think that is going to stick around. It gives you, it grips the string above and below your nock, and the main purpose for it is so that you're not wearing out your bowstring. I mean, I don't know if you go back to the days where actually the serving on the bow used to be monofilament line, like fishing line. And if you clipped that, after a while, you wore through it with your release, and then all of a sudden that thing would do just what you'd expect. It would be like a bird's nest. It would just go, and it would just come off, and you were out of business.
Oh.
So then we advanced to the more, the braided line or thread material that we have today for string serving. And now you have the D-loop behind it. If you break that up, that's easy. Just put a new one on.
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot easier to replace a 5-cent D-loop than it is a $150 bowstring. So that makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
So, what if? Let me ask you this: what if I'm out, I'm in the backcountry or I'm up Colorado elk hunting or whatever, and one of my little monkey tails flies off while I'm on a trip? Should I replace it ASAP? Should I not worry about it? And how much effect is that going to have on my shot?
Almost none. I wouldn't even worry about that. It's it's mainly a string silencer. Depending on where it is, where it's positioned, it may be giving you just a skosh more speed if it's in the right spot. Because anything you put on your string closer to the cams does increase your speed. As you get closer to the D-loop, it's going to actually slow down your arrow speed. So it gets in the middle. But those things are so light, that speed is going to be negligible. If you lose one, don't worry about it.
Cool. That's good to know. I have enough things to try to keep up with when I'm out running around hunting that a little baggie full of rubber things is just not something I want to have to keep in my backpack all the time. So let's talk about in between there. So you got your D-loop and your monkey tail, string dampener, silencer, whatever you want to call it. There's a peep sight in there, and peeps for a long time have been pretty much the same. You know, they're what I would call like simplistically perfect. And I've seen some different tweaks and changes that people have tried to market and put on peep sights. Do we really need to change them? Is there a reason to try out anything new on a peep sight, or is it just a plastic circle that you look through and that's about as good as it gets?
For hunting, that's that's it. It's a circle to line your eye up. Target, the new fad is to have these peeps that are in a tube. It's a tube basically. Instead of that flat peep that you're used to seeing, it would be an elongated tube. That cuts down glare and it gives you a more precise. It makes sure that your alignment is even more precise. But for hunting, just a plastic circle.
Sure. Yeah. It seems I've seen some that, they have a bar coming up from the bottom and it's, I guess, supposed to eliminate extra pins and kind of clean up your sight picture. But in my mind, it's just cluttering your sight picture because instead of having a few pins, you've got a huge bar in your eye.
Yeah. And quite frankly, like people like me, I'm farsighted. I don't think I would see that bar anyway. It would just be this big blurry thing in there. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah. I don't, something that close, your eye's not going to focus on whenever you're looking at the deer that's 28 yards away. Just not really how it works.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, cool, PJ. Thank you so much for being willing to come on here and share some of your knowledge with us, man. I know that we didn't get to just probably skim the surface of all the intricate details of archery and even more what you know. But I do know that we can get on Lancaster Archery's website and their YouTube channel in particular and learn a lot from you there, correct?
Yeah, we're constantly putting up new things, just anything and everything that crosses that we can think of, just to help people, become better archers. That's obviously what we want, whether you're a hunter, target archer, or just shooting in your backyard. Whatever you want to do, we'd like to help you do it a little bit better. That's kind of our mission at Lancaster Archery.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate that. We will link up to the website. We'll link up to the YouTube and many of these products that you talked about here. I just would like to say thank you from myself personally, because this is kind of the beginning of a new journey into kind of fine-tuning my archery setup, which I haven't done in probably like over a decade. So thank you for all the information, and we look forward to being in touch with you in the near future.
Yeah, and if I would, just for your listeners to know, we have full-time customer service reps that are working, and if people have questions about something, if you can't find something on YouTube or you just have a question, we have guys that's what they do all day, is answer people's questions about bows, about setups, looking for recommendations. I would encourage anybody to give those guys a call. They're some of the most knowledgeable archers you'll find, and that's a service we provide just for that reason, just to help people out. You don't have to buy anything. You can just ask them questions, and they're fine with it.
Awesome. Well, we'll put the phone number as well in the notes. So if you're listening, just look right below the show here, and you can find all the contact info you need. PJ, it's been a great evening. I appreciate your time, and we'll be talking to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. I sure appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Man, there's a lot of information to take in right there, and I feel like it'll be another one that I go through and listen to, listen back to and make sure that I gather everything that he said. And we'll probably try to have him on again because I feel like we just had to cut it shorter than it should have been.
Yeah, we barely skimmed the surface. I didn't even plan on asking him about sights, and we got on that, and that was like one of the more interesting things we talked about.
Yeah.
So there's just so many things, so many little intricacies and details about, archery, shooting, and all the different gadgets you can use to really make yourself a better hunter, as long as you use them right.
Right. So speaking of information that you can use, we have a giveaway going on. Why don't you tell us about it?
So you can be the lucky winner of an Element t-shirt. Y'all probably seen them on our social media. They're pretty cool. I wear mine a lot, especially when I want to be super comfy and I want to live in it. I wear my Element tee. You could probably live in it, actually. It's like that soft, but it's like that athletic fit, so it's going to fit you well and conform to you. It's not a big baggy t-shirt. And they look super styling with our tree logo on it and stuff. And you can support us. So what you need to do is go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to that. And then also go to the Rock Trolls video and comment on that video. And tell us, hey, what's up, guys? Awesome vid. Super cool. Y'all are awesome. I love you so much. Something awesome like that. Don't say bad things. And whoever does that and is also a subscriber will be entered into the drawing for the Element T.
Yep. And so, honestly, if you mess up and you don't comment on the Rock Trolls video, I think I'll still put you in.
Will you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have to have commented during this period of comment. You know what I mean? Like you can't have commented like 6 months ago and be in the running for this thing. So it has to have been within the last 2 weeks, I guess, is when we started this thing.
Yeah.
So go do that, and we will be looking forward to giving a shirt away to somebody. So anyway, thanks for hanging out with us, man. I hope you guys are getting out, living your element, even though it's getting hot. And man, we look forward to velvet pics. I know that. I'm ready to start seeing them on social media.
Yep.
So it's coming soon. And I'm getting hyped. I'm telling you right now, I've been editing the buck that we killed last year. I've been editing that video, and it's like I can't wait till it's November again.
Oh, my goodness. My goodness.
Anyway, I hope you guys are getting out in it and having a good time. God bless you. Thanks for listening. And remember, this is your element.
Live in it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.